Hello, good evening, everybody out there. My Paranormal Brewskis. Hello, everybody. Hey, Jossie, it's one of my peaches. Hey. Thank you so much for joining me on yet another awesome Wednesday. And I have a very special person with me, Donna, Marian. She is the owner of the Creeper Gallery in New Hope. If you guys have never checked out New Jersey Paranormal, their lives, they go live there all the time. They go through the shops. They do paranormal investigations there with, I think what I read, you have over 6,000 items that you've collected or that is in your gallery.
Well, I've created 6,000.
Oh, created 6,000. I stand corrected. I apologize.
Yeah, over 6,000. But I have a couple hundred haunted items that have gone through.
All right, so we'll get to that. I want to just start off by, if you don't mind, just telling everybody just a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in the most, we all love New Hope. Everybody loves New Hope.
Yeah.
They're awesome. They're eccentric. They're just, the people are awesome. The New Hope is awesome. So, I mean, to have a shop there, is very lucky. But just tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
My name's Donna Marian, the owner of the Creeper Gallery. I opened it 11 years ago. So been there quite a while. New Hope, as long as you have money, you can have a store there because the rents are really nuts. So
yeah,
construction, like I was displaced by construction. So we're now on Main Street. So yeah, I started in this business as an artist. So when I first opened, it was all Gothic art, but I've always been connected to the paranormal since I was a kid. And so I decided to try haunted items. It's just for display mainly. I didn't think anybody would buy them, but it was a big hit. So now it's like half and half art, half haunted items. So
you're a collector?
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay. So you're a collector, but you also will sell items. Do you ever get that item where you're like, I'm not selling it, I don't care?
Never. No.
Oh, okay.
If you're a seller, you can't really collect. So what I do is the way I've stayed safe over the years, and I've been doing it a long time, is if I buy something for me, I have to sell something I have. So the only way, that way you can keep that hoard down. Otherwise, it's everywhere. The items in the shop, they are all for sale. They have to go through a process, but while they're going through that process, you can read the history, you can watch the investigations, and then they'll be available for sale unless they're deemed dangerous. And deemed dangerous items I'll never sell.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you've always been connected to the paranormal. So since you were little. So so let's just talk about that for a second. Did you grow up in a haunted house? Were you just attracted to the paranormal? You were interested?
From birth, I've had certain abilities. I guess psychic abilities or whatever you want to call them. But when I was a kid, and I'm 74 years old now.
Really?
when I was a kid.
Look good.
Oh,
I never would have thought that.
oh, thanks. But when I was a kid, and even my parents and grandparents, if you said you saw something or you were able to speak to a figure, they would call them your friends, your invisible friends. But my family would never let me speak of any of that, none of it, because
Right.
they were afraid of being institutionalized. So up until, I want to say, probably the 70s, you didn't talk about that because they would put you in an institution and you'd be there forever.
Yep.
And that's a lot of people in institutions actually could see things or hear things or were being attacked by things they didn't understand. And so we never spoke of it. But my mother, my grandmother, even my daughter all have certain abilities. And that's the connection. And off and on throughout my life, I've leaned on those abilities, never publicly though. I would never work with somebody and do a reading. A lot of people want me to do that, and I won't. I just, it's for me. I don't want to, make money doing it. I use it now strictly to find haunted items, nothing else. And that's as far as I'll let it go. But no, I've always had that connection from the time I want to say maybe 2 years old, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, that far back.
I mean, it's interesting, because being, it's one thing to be a collector, right? Because people get rid of haunted items all the time. Like, here, take my haunted item. I don't want it. But
But
to be
every
a seller,
has
there has,
every thrift store and antique store has haunted items.
right.
You just have to make sure that it's somebody that has certain, like psychometry, I think they call it today. That you have somebody that kind of guarantees. You can't guarantee, but at least says yes. I feel there's an attachment.
Hmm.
And for me, the more I do it, the easier it becomes. When I first started doing it, when I started at the shop, it was like pulling teeth. So what I do, my process is I have paranormal group investigate it, and then I have one or two mediums give me their impressions, and they are all like blind impressions. So, and everything has to jive for me to even put it in the red room. So, I haven't had one that isn't haunted yet, and I haven't had one that came back as being too haunted. So
So
it's a good,
so there is like people are actually they look to buy haunted items,
oh my
and these
goodness.
are just like Joe
I've,
Schmoes.
no, I've sold hundreds of haunted items, and I've never had one come back.
And
So,
there's never been one where you're like you didn't want to let it go, but you
uh,
sold it.
no, I there if I feel that way, it's because like I have a cursed box which has caused a lot of damage in my life. But I can't let it go. I'm a little obsessive about it. Eventually, I'm going to burn it, but or sell it to I know Zach Bagans, so I'll sell it to him. But yeah, no, I have no desire to keep anything. Maybe things from my family. I have a little picture of a post-mortem girl that I bought 30 years ago. That sits in my office. That started me on my post-mortem photography collection that I sold. So
Mm.
I sell everything. I sell everything.
So the Gothic art that you
Mm,
have, now that's
I, mhm,
your art.
yeah.
So how did you start doing that? Was that from?
I don't know. I've been doing it for probably 45 years. I started it online when online started. I used to sell on eBay Gothic dead dolls, you know, and then I got into other things, statuary, anthropomorphic figures. But now that I'm not online, I don't sell anything off my website. So everything goes into the store. Now I do larger figures. I'll do little murder rooms, stuff like that. But I've been connected to that for quite a few years. Uh, And I really love it. I hate my boss, but I really love the art. And that's why we're only open 2 days a week, because I have to make stuff the rest of I've been working on pumpkins all day. You know,
Oh.
it's like for Halloween.
So, so Todd and Carmela. Hey guys, how are you? I just saw them at the bash. Purchase a Scottish Rite 32nd degree hat from an online auction the Creeper Gallery holds from
Yeah,
time to time with an attachment.
yes. We have haunted item auctions. We're the first place to do that, and I'll generally sell 4 or 5 items. And actually, I have one coming up September 18th.
So you have an online auction that you auction something off, and that's pretty cool.
And this way too, people that can't, location wise get to the Creeper Gallery, at least have the opportunity to buy some haunted items online. You know what I mean? Like people that live in the area, they can come in and buy stuff all the time and see it. And people that are not in the area can see it, and they'll reach out and I'll sell them stuff. But this gives them a different way, to see things, to hear about the investigation, to hear about the impressions, and
So,
the
so,
item.
so the items you get.
Mhm.
Now, like I said, I watch New Jersey Paranormal. I watch their lives and stuff. So these items that they go in and they do their investigations, they all have these like in-depth history to
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
How do you obtain that? Is it coming from the seller that or the person that brings it into you? Like, how do you find all this history? Because the history is like deep.
That's the key, because what I do is I make sure I buy something with a name. So, for instance, like I buy dolls, and some of them will have notes attached under their clothing. Now, bear in mind, probably 98% of what I buy and sell are antiques. I don't buy the new doll. Everybody's, all this new stuff. So everything's antique. It's steeped in history. I'm sure it's had more than one owner. But I like to find ones that have notes tucked in the petticoats, which I pay a lot more for them, but I think it's important. And then the note gives me the identifier, or something that has a photograph with a name. And if I have a name and a location, I have a year-round subscription to Ancestry. So I just go, and I have European ancestry and American, but I go right in there and I can find everything about them that I need to find. And
Wow.
I'm shocked sometimes, because sometimes you're just working with a name and a location. So, um, but that's how you
What
do.
would you say is your most interesting? What would you say is your most favorite item that you've?
Well, it's the one I love and the one I hate, which is a cursed box.
Mhm. Now, do you have the history of that?
And I have the whole history of it. Yeah, it's from England, but it is a very long. It's like a book. Um, that particular piece, I got it actually on Etsy by accident, and the people wouldn't answer any of the questions that I had. And it was several $100s. And I was just so drawn to it that I had to get it. After I bought it, because they wouldn't answer questions, they would answer questions, and gave me the names. And I actually have a physical picture of where it came from, the location. It was like a castle almost. And from the name and the location, I could actually track down the entire family.
Oh
And
wow.
did the paranormal investigations. We were getting EVPs of the full names, so that helped too, and it all matched up. But it's not a nice piece. It is a really bad piece. Um, but I still have it. People can go read about it. And eventually, like I say, I'll get rid of it. But yeah, it's not for sale now, though. I don't think anybody could handle it. They
Yeah.
can't. People
Um,
die. And my dog died, and people that worked on it died. So yeah, that it was a bad one, but it's still there, and I'm still attached to it. So
well, like something like that, I would think you would have to give to somebody that would be able to
I
Hold that correctly.
well,
You know what I mean?
Zach Bagans wanted it, and he wanted to outright buy it, and I told him no. So, but I think if I decide to sell it, he would definitely buy it. So you would see it in his museum at some.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how did you, I mean, like to start a business like this, forgive me, I don't mean to sound rude, right? But just because, somebody might be interested in trying to start something like this, but like, so the items that you get are definitely like documented, that they're, it's almost like Antique Roadshow, right? Like you have to have this, like you have to have something, right? So you're paying more money. So how does somebody start a business like that? Like, because it's got to be a little tougher, even with the genre that you know what I mean? Like, let's be honest, like paranormal and all that kind of stuff only got really like mainstream, in the later
Right.
2000s, right? So, I mean, to start a business like that and be doing it for as long as you, like, how does one start to do that?
Well, I think the whole key is, and that's what I figured out in the beginning, um, is you really have to prove it to the nth degree to make it legitimate, which takes work. You can't just buy a haunted item, throw it out there, and say, "Oh, I feel something," and a cat ball is going off, so it's haunted. That don't fly. It just doesn't. I wouldn't buy any of that. But if you can have definitive proof, as much as you can, like the live streams, of the investigations of the items, the medium impressions, and the mediums actually are getting work off the items because people are sending their stuff to my mediums. So, but that's cool because they don't.
Yeah,
It's not like I'm paying them. They're
right.
doing
It's called networking.
art. But I make sure that the research is done as much as can be, right, to kind of point that it is paranormal. You're not going to convince somebody it's haunted. Well, I've convinced a couple people because they come in and they don't believe and they run out. Oh, something touched me. Yeah, that whole thing.
Right.
But it is difficult. I did start though as a Gothic artist, so the entire shop was, horror kind of related things. The were
Artist, is it paintings? Was it sculptures?
I have everything: sculptures, paintings, whimsical things, taxidermy oddities. But it's all antique and it's all good. I used to have human skeletons. They're too expensive now.
I because I love medical antiques. I'm an antiquer. So you should see behind me. I have so much medical. I have a crutch that has, I mean, it's old.
Yeah.
Has stains on it and you know what I mean? So, I mean, I have a lot of old medical stuff. So I tried to find a skeleton.
Well, here's the thing. Like right before the pandemic, I get all my skeletons from the Odd Fellows. You're familiar with them.
Yeah.
And so when they close their halls down, but only in Pennsylvania, they'll call me and I go and buy all their skeletons. And I used to pay, here's a perfect example. I used to pay $1,000 a skeleton and I'd sell them for 1,200 to 1,800. Then after pandemic, they went up to 5,000 a skeleton.
Oh
How am
my gosh.
I going to sell that? I do
How?
human skull.
Why?
I don't know. Well, I think what happened was they couldn't afford full skeletons, so somebody would buy a skeleton and completely take it apart and sell each piece.
Oh
So
wow.
the time they sold each piece, and you add that up, it comes to about $5,000. So
Oh.
charging $5,000 for a skeleton. It's not the way I would sell it, but I would never take apart an antique skeleton ever.
No.
No.
Oh,
So, this is the way it goes though. I do have human skulls and I have a foot. I have some random bones hanging around in the shop. And if I find a skeleton that I can, charge a fair price for at the end of the day, I'll buy it. But right now is this is the first time Creeper Gallery hasn't had a skeleton. I haven't had one probably in 3 years. It's just
Wow.
expensive, you know.
5,000 is expensive. I mean,
Expensive.
I went to an estate sale one time, and the guy was some kind of a doctor, but he had a real skeleton hanging in the basement, and it had a hold on it. And I'm like, what? I'm like, come on, come on. And I was friends with the people running the estate sale, and I'm like, come on. No, no, no. If they don't come back, it's yours. No.
They
It was
came,
actually it was I take that back. There was a shop in New York. There's a place in New York that bought it. They sell skeleton oddity type things. Like it was a like some it was a it looked like a fancy website. You know what I mean? Like so but yeah, they bought it.
yeah, well, you know, it's like every oddity shop would sell them. And you know, I did have oddities. They were antique ones, but oddities. And you know, there weren't that many buyers. I mean, my guys would sit for a year or two. So, you know, you have your money tied up for quite a while in them. But now you can't even get them, like I say. And I haven't heard. Maybe I'll hear from them this year. Sometimes it's a couple of years in between when I get them from the Odd Fellows. So maybe I can, you know, cook them a deal. So we'll see. Uh,
Um so so
so that crowd, um, I made the decision to start a case of haunted items just as a
okay.
interest. And it got so big, you couldn't even walk by the case. There were so many people. And so from that point, it grew and grew and grew. And that's how I got into the Red Room. You know, I had made it an entire room. Now the room's bigger and more people. They don't even look at the art. They just go to the Red Room. So they come out and look. I mean, I sell a lot of art too, but so that's how I did it. But honestly, you have to invest like every penny.
That's what I'm saying. Like I mean, it's got to be
I mean,
yeah.
think about this. My rent in New Hope for 400 square feet is 2,000 a month.
Wow.
You know how much you have to sell for that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough town because they number one, you're paying taxes and all kind of other stuff every year. Your rents. I mean, when I was looking for a place, everywhere in town was 6,000 a month. Six.
Wow.
I couldn't afford that. So where I am is you know in and around two. But you have to really be invested. You have to have some money saved, and then when you buy, you have to make sure you know what you're buying. There's a lot of people selling stuff, and they're so wrong about it. You know, as far as how old it is, you have to know what you're doing. You know,
Yep, absolutely.
wisely. I spent I bought a photo album for $5,000 to get one photograph.
Really?
Yeah. And I got it, and I got the one photograph, and that photograph's worth about 8 grand. And then I, you know, sold the album, but it's Edgar Allan Poe, and it's a rare photo.
Wow, that's awesome. So yeah, worth it.
You have to make that jump. You have to take
Yeah.
hints. And like I say, I'm not rich. I'm not rich. I drive like a, you know, an 8-year-old car. But when I do have enough money aside, that if something comes along like that, that I can, you know, make that investment. You know,
How
unfortunately,
cool go
shops, you know, the first couple years were rough as far as, you know, making the, but now I've been there so long, and, you know, as long as I have one good weekend a month that pays my rent and bills, that's all I need. So I'm not rolling in dough, but I do like what I do. So, and
yeah.
it's 2 days a week. So,
How quickly would you say you flip stuff? Like
oh,
when you buy it and get it in, how quickly?
any of it, I can flip it. Some of the more expensive pieces take, you know, they could take a year, but I've had them sell in a day.
Yeah.
And the rest of the stuff, if I post it on Instagram and Facebook that I'm bringing it in, I have half of it sold before it ever hits the shop, and they're going
Interesting.
to get it. So I sell quite a bit, you know, over the years. say.
Do you ship or people have to pick up?
I don't ship. That's why I'm renting a store. So I don't
Yeah.
have, but I mean, somebody is, is like buying on auction, or people I've dealt with before I opened the shop, or,
Yeah.
or people, there's certain people I will ship to, but I'll only ship small things. I'll never ship big things again. That's why I went into the store, because the shipping of these large life-size pieces was ridiculous. It
Yeah.
wore me out, So I said, well, I'm going to make big pieces now. Got to get a shop. So that's what I did. But I have a studio too that people visit by appointment. So they can come here to my studio. They'll see things that they don't see in the shop, because I kind of rotate stuff in and out of there. So yeah,
That's
it's pretty
awesome.
cool. But it's a big, I didn't think I'd still be here. I had a 5-year plan, and it's 11 years. So
Wow. I
yeah.
can't, first of all, I have to tell you again, because I don't think you heard me, but I can't believe you're 74.
Yes, I'll be 74 on the 9th,
I
which,
would never, ever, 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 ever guess 74. I'm
oh,
telling you, you look amazing.
thanks. Thank you.
Um, and it's probably because, you're doing what you love.
Yes,
You're enjoying life while you're doing it.
I am.
And that's awesome. There was a question I want to go back to like the paranormal stuff
Sure.
now, because I know John and Chris, they do a lot of investigations at your shop,
Yes.
New Jersey Paranormal. Um, is this open to other people, or is it just exclusive? Not exclusive, I'm the wrong word. I
Good work.
can understand why you would be hesitant to let just anybody in because of your items and the things you have. I mean, it's a liability letting just anybody in. But if you know them or something, is it open to other people, or is it just,
Well, here's why it's not open. Um, when I decided to do this, it was probably 9 years ago or 8 years ago. I contacted every paranormal group in this area and in New Jersey, and half of them wouldn't talk to me, and because I wanted a group to come in and investigate items every so often. Um, Other people said it wasn't worth their time. These are all these paranormal groups that are all in Jersey.
really
They didn't have time. It wasn't important. They didn't have an interest.
interesting?
Yeah. So that went on. And then I got my mediums. I actually had 6 mediums at that point. And then I had the one woman I used all the time. But then about, I want to say a few months after I tried to find a paranormal group, I won't name them, but I still remember their names. um, I got a call from John from New Jersey Paranormal. And he says, "Oh, I read about you somewhere, or I saw it online, and would you be interested in, doing an interview for our TV show about your haunted items?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." So that's how I met him. And then they started coming in. At that time, they were coming in maybe once a month, um, to investigate. And then they started coming in like every 2 weeks to investigate items. And so I gave them the key, because that's how much I trusted them at that point.
Right.
That key for 9 years, they can get in my store. Because I live an hour away from the store. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, and I'm old. I don't feel like going out there at night and then trying to drive home at like 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So I gave them the key. And you know what? They've been doing it all these years, and I'm not going to have other groups come in
Yeah.
that didn't want to do it in the beginning. So, like I say, I remember the names, and not that I've got a lot, I get a lot every week, but now I do have an exclusive contract with him, which I've had since before the pandemic, and it was to protect us both, like I.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, no, that it's simply because when I was calling and doing it the right way, and I was inviting people, it was no, 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 no. We don't have time. Not worth it. Bah, 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 bah. I even had people set up appointments and not show up, and I had to drive an hour in. So now I have a group that I just trust implicitly. So
And that is the important thing.
yeah, why would I
Yeah.
why would I have to physically go out there with another group at this point? Now if John decides he can't do it, or he retires, or who knows. Yeah, I would consider it then, but I think I'm going to end up being dead before that happens. So,
Well, they're great people. You know what I mean? So
we butt heads just like
everybody does.
We are like a family.
Yeah.
So, and I 100% trust them.
Yep.
And after all this time, he's more like a brother that I want to beat up than, a friend. So,
Yeah, for sure.
that's why. And, I did kind of put that explanation on Facebook, when they were kind of blaming him.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Everybody was, but this whole paranormal, all this fighting, I just don't get it. But when they were blaming him because I wouldn't let anybody in, like he was holding the key to the lock, what's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, listen, anyway, it's your place. It's your business.
No,
you
but
can do what you want.
Yeah, I know, but I like to give everybody an opportunity. But like I say, when I needed somebody to help me or to work with me in the beginning, there was just nobody that wanted to do it. And then they offered, and they've been doing it ever since. I enjoy what they do. So, yeah, that's why.
That's awesome. And I love that. And that's okay.
There.
People can still go there. People can still see the stuff.
There's tons of people that go, they do videos, I know they're pulling equipment out back there or putting on their
reporters.
I can't do anything about that. I don't support that if they post it online, but I don't do anything about it, So it is what it is. That's as good as it's going to get, for people. But I do try to share whatever they're doing with everybody,
Yeah.
That's why I do it live, do the whole thing live,
I I love watching it.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I do. So Jossie had a question. I hope she's still watching. I'm sorry. She's going back to like who deems the items dangerous? Like who?
I do.
How would you do? Okay.
I do. And they'll never be sold. I'm the boss, so it would be me. Once we do the investigations, and if we have some sort of history, I live with these items for weeks before I bring them in. And there are some that are just dangerous. And I know it coming in. Certain voodoo items, ritual items, or like that box. There's certain items, they're just really bad. And so if the impressions come back with that, and if John does his investigation and it's negative, they're not being sold. I won't sell them to anybody because I don't.
Do you have them in the shop? Like, do you have the box in the shop or the boxes at your house?
Boxes in the shop.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody can look at it. The entire story isn't there, but I talk about it enough on these things, that it'll get out. And actually, I think John had a video about it. But yeah, it eventually, like I say, will end up with Zach Bagans probably, unless I decide to burn it.
No, not if he's offered to give you some pretty good money for that,
huh? Well, it isn't even the money. It's just that I don't know. He maybe just could handle it. I don't believe anybody else can, including myself.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't want to sell to just a Joe Schmo, especially, you know what I mean? You have to.
No, and a lot of people that are in this field think they can handle some of these dangerous things. They can't. They can't. And I have witnessed what this can do. And this is all walks of life, people that were involved that just had really horrible things happen to them when it was opened. So, yeah, no.
So I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to be honest.
Sure.
Okay. So when we say an item is haunted, I don't believe that there's like a spirit attached to anything, or a ghost, if you will, for lack of a better description. Um, I'm a very superstitious person.
I have no superstition.
I am superstitious, right? So let's use for example Buddy the doll, right? You know, you have to have all these rules, right? Now, not being in front of Buddy, that thing's not haunted. I'm like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't like dolls. I'm afraid of dolls. I think they're creepy, but um, I'm not like, okay, that's haunted. But if I were gonna go and see this Buddy the doll, you best believe I'd be doing everything on that list that you're supposed to do and not do because I'm superstitious.
It's well, I'll have a big story about that doll. Robert. Robert.
Robert, I'm sorry, but I always call him Buddy for some reason. Robert the doll. Thank you. Everybody's probably like, "Who's Buddy?"
I have all the time that go down to see Robert the doll and break the rules. And they all tell me the same thing. They have to go back and apologize because they've taken the pictures and they have such horrendous
I
luck.
know. I've read this. I've read it.
Everybody comes in my shop tells me about Robert the doll. So out of all of them, that's the one I would say is probably pretty accurate, as far as that kind of stuff. The other stuff, like, I don't know, like Amityville House and all that, I just can't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, Amityville, I'll tell you, Amityville,
I don't believe there's a Casper in every item.
right.
Channel them. So if we have enough information, we're channeling them in through their, and they never leave their item and go with people. People say, oh, will they go home with me? I'm like, why would they do that? Why would they go home with you? They've been with this item for however long, but there's something to do with something that they owned. If you have all the information and you have an item that they owned and loved for whatever reason, and you are calling to them, they come. They come. I don't know where they come from, but they come.
Now, you said something important, I believe, but it like blocked you out a little bit. But you're saying you don't believe that there's like a Casper attached to these items. You think that, okay. I just wanted everybody to have that disclaimer on there because, I think we kind of feel the same, like, so it's funny that we're talking about this because I was just, prior to this, I had to jump on a podcast because I was a part of this experiment. Beings that I'm that person that doesn't believe that things can be quote unquote haunted, Casper, if you will, attached to an item. It was like a year in the making. There was 4 people. We didn't know what we were getting, but each of us were mailed 4 items. We each got the item. We didn't know we didn't know who was involved. We had to have this item for a month. We had to document if anything was like changed in our environment, blah, blah, all this stuff. There was one thing that I had sitting out, and as soon as I had this, like a series of bad things are happening. Now, again, I'm superstitious.
Right.
Okay. So immediately I'm like, it's gotta be that thing. I'm like, if one more bad thing happens, I'm putting this thing in a box and put it back in my closet. One more bad thing happened. And I was like, that's it. And put it in the box and I put it in the closet and things kind of died down. Now I'm thinking psyche, right? I'm like, it's all psychological at this point to me, but however, when we were doing the show tonight, and now we had no idea which item, so only one of the 4 items was supposed to be haunted. So this is, this was a part of the experiment. We didn't know which one. So they went around, they asked everybody what we thought about the stuff and everything. Well, at the end of it, Kenny Biddle was the only one that knew which one was supposed to be haunted or allegedly haunted. And it was the thing that I had out that I was like, okay, that's great. Okay, thanks. Like that's even play more into my psyche.
Yeah.
How do you not let that happen?
Well,
when an item's coming to you, you get the stories,
yes.
And you know it. How do you get that, but then not play into the psychological part of that?
They're people. They were people. I'm not easily convinced about a lot of things. Trust me. That I do know. So when I get a certain feeling and I'm drawn to something, it has something connected. Let me put it that way. Instead of attached, let's say connected.
Right.
Because I say over the years now of doing this, more and more, I just feel that if we have enough info and we have an item they owned and held, that if we call their name and their families, or, refresh their memory about their death or their life, that they would come. And every time they come, every time. And even if they're quiet, they might be quiet. They aren't always there. They don't always come. But if they're quiet and you are getting a little bit of like EMF spikes or whatever, they're there, but
Right.
not interacting. You try it 2 or 3 or 4 times, and by the end of that, they are all there and very active. So my problem is I never know, for the most part, which ones are going to be the really bad ones until it's too late. So take that as a grain of salt, because yeah, you got a haunted item, but what is it haunted by, and
Yeah.
what's it connected to? It's connected to something that's in your home, or you remind them of something, because obviously it came out for you. I don't know how it works. I wish I did. I'm just
Yeah, it's interesting because, especially being in the field, right? And knowing that there are allegedly haunted items or things attached to items, stuff like I was telling you, I have all these medical stuff. I have a bayonet that has been stamped so many times. They used to get stamped, like which at the wars they were, or wherever they were at. There's still blood stains on it. Like there's like stains on it. Like and not
connected to it.
yeah, and not like, I mean, it's been hanging up on my wall forever. You know what I mean? Like I have like so many things, and I feel like the one thing that it's because I knew it was coming in. Like I don't know which one was haunted, but one of them was haunted, allegedly haunted. Like all this stuff happens. It's like, so when he said tonight that was the thing, that was the only thing. All the other things were just created and bought at a Walmart. You know what I mean? Like this was the only thing that came to him that
Right.
was allegedly haunted.
And there you go.
Yeah. No, likey. I didn't like that.
Things can be too. They're just not actively connecting. So if you had info on that blade, somebody's name, who,
Oh, true.
where did it fall, whose blood, if you had some kind of info on it, and you actually did a little research and sat down with it and said, okay, Jake Smith,
Yeah.
killed by this knife, or you killed 10 Germans, or you killed, who knows,
Yeah.
That's when they come out. They come, and they don't come out for everybody. If you watch John and Chris, sometimes they won't talk to him. She'll have to talk to the person. It depends culturally and what era that they're dealing with. People today don't understand, the 19th century. They don't understand how they lived, how their lives were so different from us.
Yeah.
And probably 3/4 of the equipment you guys use to them is demonic. They've never seen
Well,
it.
they have no idea what it is. Like, how do you tell a spirit from like the 1820s to touch a REM pod?
Well, that's what people do, though.
I know.
That's a big problem. Like I remember one time John and Tanya were there, and they did a top hat from the 1800s, probably 1840, and Tanya took the hat and put it on, and that, the 19th century, was the highest of insult. Having a woman not
Oh,
touch them, let alone putting a hat on. That was a complete insult. So, because women were nothing, they were
yeah.
adult, they were nothing. So you have to kind of know your history. And I'll tell you, a lot of the new people in the paranormal don't learn the history before they investigate. They
So
don't
true.
learn the history of the era. They don't learn, the history of anything. And so when they're going in at a disadvantage. And honestly, probably pissing a lot of those old time spirits off with behavior, just language. Our language is different today. So women are doing things today. So women investigators, it's a rough one for these ghosts. I'll tell you, they haven't changed that way. That's all they knew. So
Do you ever get clothes?
Oh, I have clothes now. I have a little baseball uniform from a bat boy. I think his name was Bert, a New York Yankees little bat boy uniform.
Oh wow.
Haunted, haunted stuff. I've had plenty of dresses, flapper dresses. Um, I always bring clothes in, and they can be very haunted as well.
Hmm.
So I've had some wild things go on for sure.
Right. So, so there's new people joining. I just want, like, I know you just heard her say that whole part, but so the experiment I was talking about, this is one of the guys that was running it, Tim Vickers. He's one of the guys that had, was running the whole experiment with the
Cool.
haunted, with the one haunted item, and we didn't know what it was.
Right.
So I loved being a part of it. Now you have all this stuff in your gallery.
Hmm.
And I know you said this earlier, right? So you feel that if you have the history, you can bring whoever that was the owner. Maybe you could communicate with the owner if you have that history.
I believe it panel in a spirit. Yeah.
Right, right. So, but you also said that you don't believe that this can travel. So, but you being the owner of these items, you owning the Creeper Gallery, do you ever find that they come home with you, or no? Like, they never.
Never. Which is cool because the buildings themselves, the first Creeper Gallery, was haunted by a little girl. And then I had to move, and I made a doll up with her toy. I had gotten her toys, and I said, "You want to come visit? I'm right up the street." She did actually come, which was weird. She only stayed for about 15 minutes, and that was it. But we knew it was her because the only one that's ever asked for green M&Ms, that like green M&Ms, and the way we knew it was her was because she wanted green M&Ms, which is wild.
So that's one of my. I love green M&Ms.
And my building now, I thought had one. I just always envisioned a man in the corner of the red room hanging by his neck, dead. And then a medium came in that I've never met, but she's been doing it professionally for 40 years. I said, "Look, I don't know you," she said, "but there's a guy standing here looking at you at the front counter." And I said, "Oh, it's probably the guy from the red room that's been hanging back there." And then John Zaffis came, and yes, there is a spirit there. His name is Mike Ube. He gave us his name, and he's Haitian. But when you go back to the history of when that building stood, they brought in all Haitian slaves to rebuild New Hope when the city burned down, when the town burned down. But these guys supposedly were killed ritualistically.
Oh
So
wow! Now, could you link that history? Like, could you find this gentleman's
I'm
name?
well, no, I'm trying though. They would never have a slave's name.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Most slave records, you can barely find their graves.
Yeah.
Guys, evidently one was hung. We don't know why he was hung, and one was burned to death. So I didn't know there were two. John Zaffis told me there were two. So I guess I'll
So John Zaffis has been there. Who else has been there?
Steve Gonzalez, John Zappis. Who else? I got
Zach Bagans will be there soon. He's going to want that box.
no, doesn't fly anymore.
Oh,
You'll never see him very far from Vegas because he doesn't. Actually, when I was doing the work for him for his museum, he stopped flying because I don't know, something must have happened. He's never flown since. So actually, he sent like big trucks out with guys to pick up all the stuff he bought from me and then drove it back to Vegas. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. But yeah, he'll get it. I could get a hold of him tonight and say, "You want it? Yeah, I'll take it." Yeah.
John's cool. Was John coming to just see it, or do they come to buy stuff, or are they coming just to check it
No,
out?
doing an event, I guess, with New Jersey Paranormal, and he asked if he could go to the Creeper Gallery while he was there. So he came in the day before, and he saw it, and then we had lunch, and then he came back, and he wanted to do an investigation. So, he sat down for an hour, he uses some app. But we got quite a bit of information. I mean, it kind of actually fell in line with, his history of the place. So pretty interesting.
That's awesome. And he's, I mean, he had the Haunted Collector show. That show was awesome. I
Yeah.
love Haunted Collector. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix the lighting on here. I don't know what's going on. Hold on.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. And I can't see anymore. So, people are asking about the doll. Was it Madeline?
Madeline was the little ghost that haunted my original building.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think they were saying, they were asking when you were talking about, I guess you were getting rid of, they said, because somebody said, Madeline, I miss her.
Well, Madeline's still at the old building.
Oh, the old building. Okay. So she did not come with you to the new one.
I think they get bound to certain buildings or property. But they can travel because she did visit once, when they investigated. I haven't asked her to come back, but she can come back whenever she wants.
So in doing this, aside from like the objects and stuff, do you ever have visitors outside of, like, do you find that the items can be a conduit for other types of spiritual stuff to come in, or family members, or things of that nature? Like, are there others that come in, or is it just kind of basically all the stuff within the store?
What do you, well, within the store?
Or the gallery, like your creeper gallery, like your the red room and stuff like that. Is it, being like it seems to me that having that much would be a conduit for other, outside of what your items are, not attached to the items, but when John and Chris are doing their investigations, is there sometimes just some guy walking through like, hey, I'm Billy, see you guys later, like,
yeah, it's possible because the town I'm in is a couple 100 years old.
Sure.
So how many people have been in that building in
yes, thank you
225 years, so every building I'm sure has had generations pass away there. So when you get that in a town that old, anything possible, anything.
New Hope is old, but New Hope is so gorgeous.
Oh, it is.
It's beautiful.
They're doing a lot of work, which is, I think, going to ruin it a little, but it's still like where I've moved. The end of town I moved to now is pretty hopping, and they're trying to put like a lot of oddity shops in and witch shops, and try and bring it back to where it was years ago. So that's cool.
Yeah. I love it. I love all that stuff. I love all the strange and unusual, and the oddities and the stuff. I can't wait to come to your shop when I'm in New Hope next time. I mean, I just I love it. It's funny because I put up a Good Morning America every morning, and I'm 2 years behind. I have so many American flag photos. I'm 2 years behind. So I don't know when it was, probably a couple months ago. There was an American flag, and the Creeper Gallery was in the picture. and John commented, he's like, "Hey, I know that place," and I'm like, "I took this in 2022." I was like, so
been a while.
Yeah. So before hey Katie, and then so Susan actually gave me the word I was looking for, not conduit, a gateway. So like almost like it like it brings other spirits in from outside of the gallery, and kind of a gateway, not a conduit. She had the right word.
I guess that's possible, but like I said, the building itself has probably had, I don't know,
April, yes,
inhabitants over the years, or more than that. So I don't know. Do we know if spirits go to New Hope and walk around?
They were everywhere, right?
I mean, I guess anything is possible. I don't rule anything out. Lord knows. I don't worry about that because, we're doing investigations in a room full of haunted items, but we're just focusing on one item, one story, and you can kind of weed out if somebody else is trying to bounce in. We've had that happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially with like the bad guys.
And then do you do an investigation right away when you get a new item, or do
Well,
you continue to work on the same items? Now, I watch the show, so I know, but I just want you to
yeah,
tell on my the viewers.
how often they can get in and how many items can they get done, and my doggies are fighting back here. And it's not up to me. I don't rule when they come, you know, because they're doing it for me. Um, but they do about 3 items a week. But there's some items that have sat for a long time. They haven't gotten to them. And then now, you know, since I moved, they're like, oh, you know, we saw this at the other place. You know, we should do it. So there's always new items, always.
Hi, baby. And
And
you wait to put the items out until like an investigation is done with them and everything.
why? Because I need time for people to come in and see it and read what I have. And then we do the investigations while that's going on, and we do the medium impressions, and then the price tag goes on, you know.
Okay.
But I don't put necessarily, I'm kind of behind. I got to put the prices on, but it gets sold then. But it gives it time that the people coming in can see it, especially like I had a knee from Gettysburg that was an amputated knee, and it had the shrapnel that hit it on, you know, still on the kneecap. So I mounted it in a dome, but it was a haunted item, and it came actually out of the foundation up in Cashtown. And I bought a bunch of stuff from this guy, but this knee, we figured out kind of who it belonged to. That one I kind of didn't sell for a long time because
I wouldn't have parted with it.
it was so interesting. You know what I mean?
I
So
wouldn't have parted with it.
I sold it recently because I've had it for probably 5 years.
Donna, I have the coordinates to Gettysburg on my arm.
Cool.
Gettysburg, that's my background. That's a little round top. That's Gettysburg. Like,
I have an unknown buried in Gettysburg.
really?
Yeah, great uncle, great
Well,
uncle.
anything that would come my way, Gettysburg, I'm like, this, and see, this is what I'm saying. Like me, I would be like, oh yeah, I can't. Like I have a Civil War certificate mustering a lieutenant into the Civil War. He wound up being a POW.
Right.
He was fine. He was released when the war was over, and this I live. But I have it. And I have it hang out. It's in museum glass. It's in a museum glass frame, and I've had people offer me money for it, but I'm like, I just can't do it.
I know. Well, I get a lot of Gettysburg. I buy a lot of haunted Civil War items because my second husband, he was a historian and was writing books on the Civil War, so he drugged me everywhere. But I'm specifically interested in Gettysburg because I have a relative as an unknown there, and I actually have a picture of his floating misty figure, which is weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird story. The whole story is weird, but no, I'm just drawn. Yeah, I'm drawn there. I'm drawn. You know, have you ever been to Harper's Ferry? It's not.
Yes.
Oh yes. So that and there, I love there too. So that
Now,
whole. So I always buy. He did tonight a Civil War crutch.
of
Uh,
course, of course, and I have my show.
it's all right.
Hey, number 4. We're talking about haunted items. Ironically, there. See, that's the show I was just talking about, the haunted item when we were what's the alleged haunted item or whatever. Kenny Biddle.
Uh,
So Kathy is asking, I always wanted to know if the people upstairs, when John is investigating, they know that spirits are in the creeper gallery, and if so, are they freaked out?
they don't know. They don't speak English.
I was gonna say they might know now, but maybe not.
I don't think they know. It's very clear because my banner says home of the Red Room. So, but they know I have weird stuff, but I don't think they know that I have haunted stuff. And I don't know that they've been down at all.
Really?
I don't think so. I think it freaks them out in general. Because there's a witch shop across the courtyard from me, and I think we moved in at the same time, and I think they're totally freaked out by the fact that both of us are there.
Wow. I mean, like if I lived above it, I'd be like, okay, let me check this place out. This is really cool, you know?
Yeah.
But, I mean, moving to New Hope, you have to know that there's going to be a lot of.
Well, every building has a ghost or 2 or 3. Every one. You know, it was weird because when I had to leave my old building, the project manager for Landmark Hospitality, that's who I made me leave because the building was collapsing. And I said, look, he moved me out. And I said, look, I'm leaving Madeline's toys in the window. I said, Madeline is a ghost. I said, and, you know, I appreciate if you could leave him there as long as possible after I leave for her. He goes, that's nothing. He said, when we were digging the basement in the Logan Inn, which is the most haunted in the country, he said, we ran into Haitian ghosts. So he's dead out like conservative guy. And they ran into Haitian ghosts. It scared the hell out of them. So he said he didn't care about seeing the little girl. But every building there, everyone.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is like, if you're moving there, you probably have to accept that, you're going to be, there's a lot of eccentric and, exquisite shops there, like odd shop and like, not the norm, mixed in with normal stuff. But that's what makes New Hope so cool. You know what I mean? Is all the shops that you don't normally see.
Yeah.
And, and so, I mean, that's what's cool about it, and it's a very old town, like you said. And I love old towns. I love old antique towns.
All the dealers went over to Jersey, but yeah. Hey, when I used to go to New Hope, it was back in the 69, 69, 68. It was all head shops and artists. That's all that was there. Head shops, artists, and witchy shops.
See, but I love, like, that's the stuff you don't see normally anywhere. And that's why it's so cool.
Yeah. And it's been that way forever, as long as. But that's what they wanted. They wanted an artist community.
Yeah. And I mean, I like it. I love it. I love Lawrence, Milano. New Hope is an absolute gem. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before I let you go,
sure.
Just tell everybody, because you have hours that, you don't want anybody jumping in New Hope to come to the Creeper Gallery and you're not open. So just everybody, like, where they can find the Creeper Gallery, your, any social media links, and then your hours of your store and stuff like that.
Okay, so the Creeper Gallery, it's 129 South Main Street in New Hope. I don't know the zip, but we're only open Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays we're open in the summertime, in the warm months, 12 to 8. Sundays we're open 12 to 5. And I'm there on Sundays. And then we have my girl Lynn that's there on Saturdays. So, yeah, that's our hours. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. I think we're on TikTok. And we have a YouTube channel. I don't know.
Are your winter hours different?
Yeah, in the winters, we close at 5. So it would be 12 to 5 Saturday and Sunday.
Sign me up for that. I'll work for you. 12 to 5 Saturday and Sunday. And I get to work with a whole bunch of cool stuff. That's awesome. Sign me up.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been I hate working more than one day a week. So that's why I had to hire somebody. But she's a doll. She's a little doll. She's helped me a lot. So
that's awesome. Good for you. I'm glad that it's working out, and I'm glad you're having fun with it. And you're new, and I'm happy that it's a good thing. I like it. I can't wait to see it.
Come out and see it. And
what?
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for coming on. And I would love to have you on again. And maybe one day I can meet up with John and Chris, and maybe we could do a double live there or something like that. I'll go live on the Brew while they're live on New Jersey Paranormal. And,
that is cool.
Yeah. Well, we could probably figure something cool to do with that. That would be cool. But again, Donna, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for allowing John and Chris to go in and do their investigations, because I love watching them. But and hopefully at some point I'll be able to come out and see it in person.
Visit the ghosties.
Yeah, absolutely. Get to the Creeper Gallery. For some reason, when I read that, I thought of Arnold Schwarzenegger saying that.
Yes.
I don't know why. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you so much. And be sure to check out the Creeper Gallery or New Jersey Paranormal. They go live and they do investigations at the Creeper Gallery. Check that out, too. Until next week, guys.
Have a good one.
Good night.
Night.